Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work. Hard work. Hard work.
Fall in.
Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. Y'all know what it is. It's me, your boy Trey, and you're rocking with your favorite vets on the next First Formation Morning Sports Talk. So come in and follow with your favorite vets on the net as we get to talk about some of the sports that has happened over the last couple of days. And with y'all ain't been with y'all ain't seen y'all. What's good? What's going on, fam? What's happening? Of course, first and foremost, my counterpart, esteemed colleague, Mr. Bishop. Of course, we want to wish him a happy birthday today as he celebrates another day in the life of the living. Clear and concise. Happy birthday, brother. We may or may not see him on this morning. I get a chance to talk to him. But if you can go ahead and make sure you shout him out, happy birthday. If you follow him social media wise, happy birthday. It's always a gracious day to celebrate another year. But from him, it's a little more than most of us. But hey, it's no problem with that. But in any case, we're on. We're live. It's up, as we say. Had a little stuff to take care of yesterday. Had to go tap in with the dentist, so I had to go take care of that. So the scheduling allowed for it to be on, but we're back. What's good? What's happening? Where's everyone been doing? How y'all doing out there? It's the second day of the week, in which means plenty has going on. You got NBA action. You still got stuff going on when it comes down to the NFL. NCAA college madness going on. That's crazy. What's expected has been expected. Who would expect less? That's what the tournament is all about. I've sit up and talked to a couple of people who basically stated and let it be known that now they're actually watching college basketball. They like they never was really a basketball fan or didn't really watch sports. Then of course they've been watching the tournament. It started out a little bit with a little love going towards the women in general. Then they was telling me they had never watched college basketball March Madness ever. And now they're locked in. Now they're a fan. The excitement, pandemonium, everything. So that's a different that's different. So hey, that's what sports does. It brings people together in different factions and different fathoms. So who would think that would be any different? I guess just wait, hold on, let me see if I can find something additional. I wanted to make sure I gotta give love to the men and women before I get into this. So let me reset my spot. So of course, where do we start? Hey, what's happening? Let's go with the ladies first. Of course, we know women's NCAA March Madness is just as pandemonious as that of the men's, in which there's a couple of games going on. What's good, Kanique? Good morning to you. Of course, likely same to you, TT. Be blessed. It's a beautiful morning. Many more to come, of course. Appreciate you, TT. Thank you greatly, greatly. Always glad to have you formation with us and tapping in. So, of course, what's expected in the Greenville region, what is obviously expected for the women's, as we know, as the number one seeded South Carolina Gamecocks, doing their damage, keeping the party going, as they have been able to punch their way down the line. First, starting off of Norfolk State, the 16th seed, they take care of them handily. Next up, they tapped in versus South Florida, in which they took care of that. Maybe just a tad bit more of a test, in which they get ready to face off against the fourth seeded UCLA Bruins. The Bruins strike had basically started off with them against Sacramento State. Then a game against the Oklahoma Sooners, which they was taking care of handily. This puts them on the face-off come Friday versus like I said, fourth-ranked UCLA Bruins. So we'll continue on to see if South Carolina continues their track artwork. Do the UCLA Bruins catch them slipping and put them in a precarious situation? It's yet to be seen. Of course, the winner of that game will go on to face off against the winner of even the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who's the third 3 seed, or the Mississippi State Bulldogs coming in at the 11th seed. For both those teams, Mississippi got to where they are currently by taking care of business versus the Crichton at the 6th seed. Notre Dame took care of Southern Utah as the 14th seed that puts them in their position. Additionally, we'll see who faces off against between them two teams. As I stand corrected, I'm sorry. It's Notre Dame and Maryland. I stand corrected. Notre Dame took care of Mississippi State to get in their position. And then, of course, when you look down the line, Arizona has had games against West Virginia at the 10 seed, Maryland at the 2 seed, and the Maryland faced off first against Holy Cross at the 15th seed, which puts them in a position to play 2 versus 3. Notre Dame and Maryland, 1 and 4. South Carolina and UCLA in the Greenville region, which will put them in position to see who goes on to play one another for the Elite Eight. Another division, of course, the Greenville 2 division has number 9 number 9 Miami University of Florida facing off against number 4 Villanova. Of course, how those teams got there. Number 1 Indiana took care of business versus Tennessee Tech, in which put them in play against Miami, but Miami gets the upset 70-68, sending Indiana home as the number 2 seed. As Miami did battle a close game versus Oklahoma State in the first opening round, they took care of business. They go on to take care of business against Indiana, and it puts them in the Sweet 16 for the women's. They face off against Villanova, who made their trek through Cleveland State at the 13th seed, handily taking care of them. Florida Gulf Coast University was their next game, in which they took care of them by the score of 57-76, putting them in position to play against Florida as a 4th seed, person off against the 9th seed. We're going to see how that goes down. Additionally, in the lower half of that bracket, they will be playing for an opportunity to play even LSU or Utah, both the 2nd and 3rd seed in this bracket. Utah got there by taking care of Gardner-Webb by the score of 103-77 in the first round. Faced off next against Princeton, taking care of them 63-56 in the second round. Then they travel and get into the 3rd round, facing off against the 3rd-seeded LSU Tigers. Those Bayou Bengals made their track to get in this position by taking care of Hawaii in the first round by the score of 73-50. Then they faced off against Michigan. This is a 6th seed, knocking them off 66-42. And now they get ready to play on Friday versus Utah for our opportunity to face off against the winner of the Miami and Villanova game. Moving on down to the Seattle division, Virginia Tech, the number 1 seed there, and it's going down like it should to a degree. They are currently playing in the Sweet 16, getting ready to have an opportunity to get into the Sweet 16 as they play against the 4th-seeded Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee look like they're getting back to where they used to be in the yesteryears when they had Pat Summitt. So they're still competing, still there. They haven't went anywhere. The Virginia Tech Hokies, number 1 in seed in Seattle, took care of business against Chattanooga. Then they end up playing against Virginia Tech, playing against South Dakota State, taking care of them by a score of 72-60, which puts them on track collision course with Tennessee, as Tennessee took care of St. Louis Billikens to get to their 45-point drubbing in the first round. Then they face off against the 12th seed Toledo Golden Rockets. Take care of them by the score of 47-94, which puts them up to play against Virginia Tech on Saturday. Of course, in the lower part of the bracket, North Carolina State, UConn faces off against Ohio State for their opportunity to get into the Elite Eight. Ohio State had to go through James Madison, the 14th seed, beat them by the score of 80-66 to put them in position to play against North Carolina, who ended up falling to Ohio State by the 2 points, 71-61 for the UConn Huskies. They could take care of business as the 22nd seed, beating Vermont, the 15th seed, 95-52. Then took on 7th-ranked Baylor, knocking them off by the score of 77-58 for their opportunity to face off against Ohio State in the Elite Eight. And then, of course, last but not least, in the women's bracket, unfortunately, heartbreak came down as the number 1 ranked Stanford Cardinals fall to the 8th seeded Ole Miss, which puts Ole Miss against Louisville come Friday night as the 8th seed plays against the 5th seed. Ole Miss got there, of course, knocking off number 9 ranked Gonzaga, then taking care of the number 1 ranked Stanford Cardinals in the upset. Louisville made their way by taking care of the Drake in the first round. Just knocking them off by 2 points, 83-81 over the 12th seed. They walk into Texas, 2 steps on Texas with a score of 22 points as they knock off Texas 73-51, putting them to play against Ole Miss for their opportunity to continue to move forward. In the bottom half of the bracket, Iowa will be taking on Colorado, the 2 versus the 6. Iowa taking care of Southeastern Louisiana in the first round, knocking off Georgia, the 10th seed, in the second round, while Colorado took care of Middle Tennessee in the first round. Second round knocked off Duke, the 3rd seeded Duke, and now they have their opportunity to etch their name in greatness as they continue their move on. That's what we have for the men. For the women's, of course, with the men's, the stories are a little bit different when it comes down to situations over the course of the last week, of course. Starting off in the South, we know number 1 seeded Alabama has been prevalent doing what they do. They got the number 1 seed for a reason. Look to take on San Diego State, the 5th seed. And then, of course, Creighton, the 6th seed, will face off against the 15th-seeded Princeton Tigers as they look to do their damage. If you go back, let's recap just a little bit. Princeton knocked off the 2nd-ranked Arizona Wildcats in the first round by the score of 59-55. They took care of business against the Missouri Tigers, the 7th-seeded Tigers, by the score of 78-63, putting them in position to place Creighton, who basically knocked off NC State, the 11th-seeded team in the South, by the score of 72-63, which then put them in position to play a hard-fought game versus the 3rd-seeded Baylor Bears, taking care of them to put them in position a 6 versus 16 seed for the San Diego State Aztecs. They knock off the 12th-ranked College of Charleston in the first round by the score of 63-57. San Diego then takes care of 13th seeded potential Cinderella team Furman by the score of 75-52, very convincingly, as while Alabama made their way through Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Maryland to put them in position to play against the Aztecs, both vying for an opportunity to get into the Elite Eight for a continued opportunity to win the tournament. Let's take it down to the West as number 1 Kansas was eliminated. Second round. What's good, Leslie? Glad to have your formation this morning, brother, as we get through this NCAA tournament brackets real quick before we continue on. What's going on out there in Florida, brother? Like I was about to say, number 1 seed Kansas was no more, of course, by the second round, but their replacement, Arkansas, who took care of business over Kansas, winning by a score of 1.71 to 72, laid their stake to the Sweet 16 dance. Unfortunate situation. Arkansas first round took care of Illinois, the 4 stated, knocking off Kansas to get their spot as the 8th seed, playing against the number 4 seeded UConn Huskies, men and women, basically in the Elite 8. I mean, the Sweet 16. Do they both go into the Elite 8? It remains to be seen. UConn's track through the tournament started as a 4 seed, knocking off Iona in the first round. Second round took on 5th seeded St. Mary's, knocking them off 70 to 55, and they're putting them in position to play in the Sweet 16. In the lower part of the Western bracket, the Gonzaga Zags knock off Grand Canyon University by the score of 82 to 70. Going on to the second round, knocks off TCU in a close game, very close game, winning by the score of 84 to 81 for them to punch their ticket as the 3 seed to play against UCLA, the Bruins, led by Jaquez. That's my man's. Lakers keep them in the city. Keep them in the city. UCLA, second seeded, first game played against University North Carolina Asheville. That's the 15 seed. Asheville didn't make the cut, being knocked off by the score of 86 to 53. Then UCLA went on to play against Northwestern, the 7th seed, giving them a little more fight than what the Asheville did, getting the dub by 5 points, winning 68 to 63 over the 7th seed Northwestern Wildcats. That puts them in position to play against Gonzaga to see who will play in for an Elite 8 bid. Moving over to the East, just a couple of more to cover. Purdue was the number 1 seed. They was knocked off early as they fell to FDU, another 1 versus 16. Although they are rare, they happen. Yes, Austin Reeves is that dude. Shout out to Austin Reeves. AR-15, another AR-15. I love the guy. Purdue, as we stated, was the number 1 seed. We know they was knocked off early by FDU. FDU having an opportunity to continue their laying claim to that top Cinderella team in the tournament this year. But FAU says we don't believe in fairy tales, kid, knocking them off as FAU made their way through Memphis in a close game, 66 to 65. A whole water bottle tossing game as Penny Hardaway in upset tossed his water bottle into the stands. In the loss, FAU goes ahead to take off FDU, beating them by a score of 78 to 70. Then FAU punched their ticket to the Sweet 16. Now they would play against the 4th seeded Tennessee Volunteers, as Tennessee made their way through Louisiana by a score of 58 to 55. Then they played 5th seeded Duke, knocking them off by the score of 65 to 52 to make their way into the Sweet 16. Then, of course, in the bottom half of the bracket, the number 7 Michigan State will take their hand against the number 3 seeded Kansas State Wildcats, as the Wildcats knocked off Montana State as well as Kentucky to get into this Sweet 16 bout. Michigan State knocked off USC early in the first round, then took care of business against the second seeded Marquette in the second round, putting them in position for an opportunity to go to the Elite 8. And lastly, over in the Midwest Division, we have Miami, University of Miami, the U, facing off against them Houston Cougars for an opportunity. Houston's getting closer to be an opportunity to win another national title in their own city. As we know, University of Houston is the host of this year's Final Four tournament series conclusion. But in any case, Houston will play against Miami, number 1 versus number 5 in the Midwest. Houston knocked off North Kentucky. And I guess you could say it was a close game when you have a 16 seed that's basically keeping up with your number 1 seed, top team in the conference overall in the NCAA Division I division. Number 1 seeded kept pace with them, 11 points. That gave a little pause, but as we say, sometimes you got to get the juices going. Then Houston went on to knock off the University of Auburn by the score of 81-64, which puts them up against Miami. Miami's made way through the tournament bracket. They first faced off against Drake, 5-12. Taking care of business, 63-56, another close game. Then they tapped in with University of Indiana, those Hoosiers, in which they beat them 85-69 to put them in their current position. They might not, Anthony. They might not. I'm looking forward to potentially seeing a Alabama versus Houston tourney. That's what I'm hoping to see. Brandon Miller is taking care of business at Alabama. I'll give you that. And there's been talks in which I'll get into that in a second after I get finished with that. And then in the bottom half of the bracket, Texas still alive. Xavier is their opponent, 2-3, as Texas has made their way through Colgate, winning by 81-61 in the first round. Second round puts them up against Penn State, as it was a little harder of a contest, but they were victorious, winning by the score of 71-66. Now they take on Xavier, who took out Kennesaw State in the first round. Close game, winning 72-67. Then faced off against Pitt, another close game, edging them out 84-73, and then putting them now against Xavier in Texas. Potentially, we can see a 1-2 matchup in the Midwest, placing the cross-state rivals University of Houston against University of Texas for an opportunity to go to the Final Four. We're going to see how it goes down. Sasser is good to go. Houston will advance. I think they advance too, Coach Cal. I think we're going to definitely see a 1-2 matchup in the Midwest region for all the marbles, basically all the marbles to go to the Final Four. Texas two-step, Texas over Xavier. Penn State was only difficult because of the Bulldog tweener guys at the guard position. It's definitely going to go down. I think we're going to get a number 1-2 in the Midwest. That's the region in which I'm really watching. Tapping into. Miller is the best player in the college right now. Yeah, I'll give you that, Leslie. But I really think the winner of the tournament comes out the Midwest. Well, no, I stand corrected. I think Houston comes out the Midwest. Of course, I would like UCLA to come out the West, but I honestly think Gonzaga is going to finally get in the position where they make it. Unfortunately, I don't foresee them going any further or winning a championship, but I think Gonzaga might be that team that's going to they're going to probably have a little too much for UCLA. It's going to put them in position, and then they're just going to catch lightning after there. I think they're going to end up facing Utah and Gonzaga in the Final Four. Of course, Gonzaga, Utah advancing out the East. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Out the East, I think it's a toss-up. Michigan is the hot streaker right now. FAU is the Cinderella in that case, but in this case, I want to sit up and go with the underdog. And with going with that, I'm really tapped in on FAU going ahead to continue on. I would even give them an edge to get out there and officially become Cinderella, going to the Final Four to face off against, of course, University of Alabama. As much as we like to see a story that Alabama, Princeton faces off against FAU, but we know that's not going to happen. But I think Alabama comes out the South. I do think we can see a potential. I would like to see an upset Princeton over Crichton that puts Alabama to play against Princeton going into the Elite Eight, which basically puts Alabama versus FAU and Gonzaga versus Houston for a chance to see Houston versus Alabama with Houston walk away with a championship. Because the last thing we need is for another Alabama championship outside of football. We talk about how Cowboy fans be when they win stuff. Can you imagine the University of Alabama walking away the NCAA double championship and having to hear the talk that Alabama is the greatest university of athletics and all this type of stuff. I'm not there for it. I'm not here for it at all. I got Alabama versus Gonzaga in the finals. That's a tall order. You think that less of Houston, Anthony? That's what we talking about? That's how we go, bro? That much less of Alabama. I mean, Gonzaga to where Houston, where Gonzaga takes him out. What's good, Stanton? What's going on, brother? Glad to have you mention with us this morning. Big man is underrated. Yes, you're talking about Timmy, in which he's been there. It's funny, like everyone. Look at everyone. Timmy was there with Hachimura. He was there with Suggs, and now he's still there. He's playing in his last year, and he's making the difference. Like he's been that dude for a long time. It's just that he was overshadowed by for whatever reason. Now he has an opportunity to be that last man. He's the last man standing to have an opportunity to make it. Yeah, just like Mookie said, Timmy, the mustache. But we'll see. It's just unfortunate he's probably not going to have enough to take care of it, facing up against a Houston, maybe even a UCLA. Honestly, I'm on that Jaquez joint, man. Jaquez is that dude. I've been checking him out since he was a sophomore, I think. Last year he was injured, so it was hard for him. But I think, honestly, I'm going with Gonzaga, but I wouldn't be mad if UCLA. I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA could get in there. Timmy was better than Suggs, and I don't know about Chet. That point, actually, I stand corrected. It was Hachimura, Suggs, and Chet, but Timmy stays there. Smart move. Continue to build your resume. Go on now. He's saying the team is still flowing. Same thing for Mark Few as he continues to push his squad. And we're gonna see how Gonzaga's does. It's just I think they got a gauntlet though. You got to go through UCLA. After USA, potentially you might have to go through a Houston squad to get to the Final Four. We'll see. Gonzaga has been beat by a few teams in the tournament this year on a neutral site. I would like them to lose to UCLA, but you got to admit that. So, in my opinion, when I look at it and think about it, Coach Cal and everyone else that's out there listening, the tournament is a different beast, a different animal. When you look at it, like true enough, like just Coach Cal said, Gonzaga has been beat by some of these teams that are still out here in neutral sites. But it comes a little bit different when it's a one and done situation. The regular season is like, okay, we lose this game, we're gonna lose the ranking. We got an opportunity to make our way back in, walk back in. But it's a different situation when all the marbles is out there, especially for someone like Timmy. I don't think he has any more years of eligibility left. I think he might be playing on his last year because all the players got an extra year due to COVID. So you might see different. It might be a little bit different for a team like I'm talking about teams like Gonzaga, like teams like the Princetons and the FAU. That's a little bit different. Like they're playing quote unquote. Unfortunately, we coined them as this, but they play as like Cinderella. So it's a little bit different. But I think when it comes down to it, Gonzaga is we're gonna probably see a different Gonzaga. It's just unfortunate to go against UCLA because I really like Jaime Jaquez Jr. and I would have liked to see him go a little further, but I think it ends with against Gonzaga. But like I said, LA rookies get that rookie. Y'all can pick it up second round. But going back to something we was talking about earlier, so the first conversation started in talking about Brandon Miller, guard for UCLA. Guard for Alabama, being saying the best player in basketball, and which even that situation has potentially put him in line to be the number 2 rate pick player in the NCAA draft this year if he decides to go pro after this first season. So he's, of course, we knew for a long time that Scoot Henderson was being coined and talked to about being expected to be the number 2 player. But Brandon Miller has came on strong. We got to take into consideration this young man was being looked at or had for a potential of Victor Wembanyama is supposed to be the number 1 player. And I don't think no one's going to overtake him in that case. But initially everyone was being looked at. I mean, he was being looked at as being someone who assisted with a murder in Alabama earlier in the year, to where he was said to have carried a gun, took a gun to his friend, who then gave that said weapon to another friend that ended up killing a young woman. Um, uh, Unfortunately, killing a young lady as she was she was a bystander in the vehicle in which he was shooting at her boyfriend who was driving and hit her. So we looked at this man has continued to play lights out with that distinction, knowing that that was over his head, continue to play. We know Scoot Henderson, a big bodyguard who's been playing with former NCAA players and former pros in the G League. Scoot Henderson shows, some moxie. He shows that he can get it done. But he's a bigger body, but it's some lacking from what it said in his defense. I think the G League showcase at the NBA All-Star game didn't help Scoot Henderson. It didn't, because he faltered against those players. So you have that as well. So it looks like Scoot Henderson may drop a little bit. I'm very sure not too far. I'm sure he's still a lottery pick, but then again, it all comes out to who needs a big man. Who needs a player? Who needs what the players need? We're looking at potentially, we already know 4 of those players that's going to be in said draft. That's going to be in the lottery. That being the Charlotte Hornets, the San Antonio Spurs, the Detroit Pistons, and it's another team in the West, the Houston Rockets, who have a opportunity. They're they're currently out, so they have worse records than the others. So right now you're looking at particularly possibly the top 4, depending on how the ball bounces. What happens if you get another? What happens if Victor Wembanyama ends up going to Houston, or gets the first pick to Houston, or even Scoot? Or can you see a situation with Brandon Miller, Jabari Smith, Alperen Sengun, Porter, and Green? That starting 5, the youngsters. It might take a little time to mesh, but that becomes athleticism at a different level with a helpful veteran or something. That becomes a problem. Or I think even a problem in Detroit at this point, because I think they're starting to pick up. You have Wiseman, so you put a Scoot or a Miller in with that squad, which I don't know, because they do still have Cunningham. But do you move Cade over to, or one of them becomes a combo guard? It starts to make a difference. You start to see a different squad. Or even, Orlando is making that way, but what happens if one of them was to get to Orlando in some funny way? So it's a whole bunch of different scenarios that will make up the difference. And then we just have other people that's in the league that we talk about. Timmy, he's going to come out, I'm sure. He might be able to make a difference. Somebody, Jaime Jaquez, different people that give different things, different looks to a team, to where it's probably going to be a little bit interesting. But to what Coach Cal said, definitely was a situation. Scoot maybe didn't show up as best versus people he would potentially be playing against going forth. A little more to do maybe, but definitely I think Scoot goes in the top 5 without a doubt. He might be that surprising. He might still go number 2. I don't know. Honestly, we all talk about we have been thinking and saying Victor Wembanyama is going to be the number 1 pick for the last 2.5 years. Who knows? Do you take a Victor Wembanyama even if you don't need him? A team like Houston doesn't need a Victor Wembanyama for the most part, but does it make sense to take him because he's probably the best overall? So what do you go with? Do you go with the best overall, or do you go with the best fit for your team? True facts. I'll give you that, Leslie. If any one of them are drafted by Orlando, you might see that might be a team to get Orlando back into championship caliber type team, or to taste at least a playoff caliber type team. Usually best overall. Top 3 are usually best overall. True that. But then again, like Tommy, like I was asking, but do you, if you're a GM, Tommy, or anyone out there, but Tommy, since he brings up, if you're a GM, I mean, if you're a GM, okay, you say regardless of need. So that's the same. Do you agree with that, Tommy? All right, Coach Cal, Leslie, Anthony, are y'all taking the number one? Are you taking the best overall player when it comes down to your pick if you're a top 3 team? Or are you taking what fits your team the best and going to be like, hey, we'll figure it out. Let's get them in camp. Which one are y'all going with? What is your sentiment on that? Best team? I mean, best fit? Best player overall? Best player overall. It's big. You going best overall. Those Thompson twins, overtime elite squad, have a very high risk, high reward. They do, or even the twins. I don't know if the twins in what was that school? But Thompson twins, I get. Alonzo said he's taking Vic if it's Vic best overall. I don't know, man. I was checking out Vic, bruh. I look at him. He like high ceiling, but I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know, man. Best overall, you have to build around him. The best fit would fit in day one. Best overall if you're a bottom dwelling team in the NBA. I don't know. I just don't know. It's like I'm listening to what y'all saying. It keeps on bringing me back to yes, I hear you. Of course, with the NBA, what if you look at the historical data with the NBA, best fit has not been too productive for the most part, in which it could coincide with best overall. Best player, I'm drafting him. Maybe. And that's why I guess that's kind of like what I'm looking at with the whole Victor Wembanyama situation. Like, he's very skilled, tremendously skilled, like high ceiling skilled. But is that going to translate into the NBA? He went head to head with Scoot, and he outplayed Scoot. Okay, you said, Tommy, you said it's different in football. You go with what you need. Basketball, you should go with the best overall. Especially, I guess you could say that, Tommy, when you look at it. Basketball is going to a positionless type of system to where players are skilled in multiple ways that transcends and translate into them being able to play multiple positions. If you might have a center bringing the ball down. In certain sets, if you're trying to set up and switch certain or make mismatches in the post, you might have a guard that gets down low in the post. You ever seen that can bring the ball up, be able to see over the defender, get the ball low to a guard in the post and do work. So I guess I don't disagree with that. Basketball best player because most players are versatile. Got that. If you're Orlando and have some pieces to work with, you get the best fit. Spurs have nothing to work with seriously besides guard. Okay, you talk about Sheldon, I think it is. Houston has guards. I'll go with either Victor or Miller, not Scoot. Kyle, what is with you and Scoot? You just think Scoot then got it? He got to incubate a little more, or you think he's better set for another squad, basically? Like you was just saying, something like Orlando. Scoot in Orlando wouldn't be bad, but you think him anywhere else wouldn't make sense, especially Houston, obviously. But with that, as we continue on, of course, this conversation still continue on. We're transitioning to the NBA, in which 6 games last night. The battle in the West for those seeds is crazy. 6, just off top of my head, 5 through 13 is a trip. I don't know what it's going to come down to. I think like 10 games remaining. Teams losing games that shouldn't lose, winning others in which they should. I mean, they shouldn't as well. 6 games last night. Of course, first off, the Indiana Pacers faced off, hosted by the Charlotte Hornets. You would think Charlotte would be in tank mode, even though that's not legit. But they're not. They continue to get dubs. Winning last night by the score of 115-109 over the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers led by Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist for Buddy, 7 rebounds, 5 assists for Miles, 18 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists from their top draft pick last year, Benedict Mathurin. Also, the contributions from Jalen Smith and Isaiah Jackson with a double-double, 12 points, 10 rebounds, and Smith with 10.6 rebounds, 1 assist for the night. The Hornets get the dub. They was led by Kelly Oubre Jr., 28-point, 3-rebound leading, 22 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists from Gordon Hayward, 23 points, 1 rebound, 9 assists from Terry Rozier, 14 points, 17 rebound, double-double out. Nick Richards, 10 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists from P.J. Washington, as the Charlotte Hornets earned their 23rd win of the season. At this point, I wonder where they get to 25 or what they're looking at. Currently, they have 9 games left on their season. Do they get to 30? I don't know. We'll see. With that loss, the Pacers dropped to 32-40, them remaining 7 games on their schedule. Same thing. Do they get to 35? I just wonder what's the over-under at this point for those squads. The Bulls travel to Philadelphia to get a quick win by the score of 105-109, led by Zach LaVine's 26 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 25 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists from DeMar DeRozan, 11 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Kobe White, Derrick Jones Jr. contributed with 10 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Nikola Vucevic, 21 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists as the Bulls get their dub. 76ers, 37 points, 16 rebounds from Joel Embiid, 22.7 rebounds, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists from Tyrese Maxey. James Harden, 5 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists, 14 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist from Tobias Harris, and DeAnthony Melton contribute with 19 points and 6 rebounds and 1 assist. With that loss, Philadelphia falls to 48-23. Still kind of good top 4 team in the East. Chicago continues to scratch to get their way back in to hope they can stay in or get into the play-in. So it remains to be seen. It's safe that the Spurs and Rockets and Hornets win a game here and there, but it doesn't benefit the worst record like it used to. They have the 4th worst for sure. Hornets said it is. And you know what? That's why they did that system, Cal. That you're right. They're exactly right. Like tanking doesn't make a difference anymore. You get a lot of options. You get more balls for the most part for tanking, but it still becomes a bounce of the ball, air section, or whatever case like that. Excuse me, to be able to pull your team, to get your ball pulled at that point. I mean, those points that put you in position to be able to play. So definitely doesn't make a difference, honestly, when it comes down to being the worst team. You just need to be a bad team. You just need to have a closer to, like you said, top 4. I mean, worst 4, worst 5. That gives you a better opportunity. Anything above that, you might as well cancel Christmas. You're going to probably be further down the line. You could be some of those teams because we know, as we stated before, the top 14 teams, I mean the worst 14 teams, go into the lottery, with the worst of the worst getting more ping pong balls with opportunity to earn that number 1 selection or top 3 selection from what Tommy was talking about earlier. So it's just an opportunity. Embiid should be the MVP this season. It remains to be seen. I see where he's moved up when it comes down to when it comes down to the rankings for the players. He's jumped over Jokic due to the fact that Jokic wasn't having the best games. He was having some games. He still was playing, producing numbers, but his team wasn't winning. And then Philadelphia was on a win streak themselves and be producing high numbers and then producing a winning team. So he took over. Currently, I think in the top 4, of course, still belongs to Jokic, Embiid, Tatum, and Giannis. And Giannis has been producing numbers that's putting him in position to take over a well to be to win his 3rd MVP. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, Philadelphia edged out by Chicago, double overtime, score of 109-105, and the beat continues. The Timberwolves faced off against the Knicks last night, a game in which we seen New York Knicks, Julius Randle, have a monstrous game, dropping 57 points in the game. Second highest point production by a Knick since Carmelo's Anthony dropped 60. Um, I think third or fourth highest production in Madison Square Garden. But interestingly enough, those 57 points amounted to nothing for the New York Knicks as they couldn't even get a dub out of that. Julius Randle, 57 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. Jalen Brunson, 23 points, 2 rebounds, 10 assists. 19 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists from Emmanuel Quickly. 10 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists from Josh Hart. But no dub. For the Timberwolves, it was led by 35 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists from Teron Prince, 24 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist from Mike Conley Jr., 10 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists from Kyle Anderson, 18 points, 4 rebounds, Jaden McDaniels, 12 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists from Naz Reid, Jalen Noel with 14 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists. Rudy Gobert, 16.7 rebounds, 3 assists. There was no defense. Like, there was no defense. Minnesota did exactly what they wanted, even shooting 61% from the field. Like, they wasn't being pinched, tripped, popped, or anything. They had their way with New York, in which the score ended 140 to 134 in favor of the Minnesota Timberwolves. With that, the Minnesota Timberwolves improved to 36 and 37, kind of keep still in the play-in currently, but trying to make their way, chasing the Golden State Warriors for that number 6 spot to guarantee a spot in the playoffs, as opposed to trying to play for a guaranteed spot in the playoffs. The Knicks, with the loss, fall to 42 and 31 on the year, still like a top 5 team in the East. But it's getting close. It's starting to tighten up. Down to 9 games for them. It's not solidified yet. As a company in the sports entertainment industry, they may need to pull some strings to ensure the Hornets and Spurs remain watchable. After all, do we really think NBA is trustworthy when it comes to love? So, you know what, Cal? As I was talking about that earlier, when I was thinking the same thing, but I do think that I do think the lotto selection. I'll say this: I'm about 60% confident in the lotto selection. Now, of course, they may tend to minuscule and fix things here and there. We've heard that. I wonder, did we ever see a documentary about someone coming forth and talking about the lotto selection being a ruse or something like that? But at this point, I think we can say that that there's full integrity when it comes down to the lottery picks. I think we can say that. I'm about 60% sure that is good at this point without just going off that. I would think that I would like to believe that it isn't touched in any way, form, or fashion. They did. But again, and what you might be on something, I can see your sentiment. I can understand fully, because when you look at it, Cleveland, like you said, Minnesota had some lifelines, but they were also bad teams at the time too. But to play anti-advocate to what you're saying, or to even agree with, provide a lifeline, I guess, so to speak, that could be why they say the ball bounces, they get so many more balls so it can slip, and kind of like what the right hand don't know what the left hand doing by throwing it off a little bit to be like, okay, it's possible because they had more balls. But in some of those cases, they climbed up. I got to take in consideration the year that the Lakers were expected to get the 5th or the 4th round pick, and they ended up getting the 2nd round pick. So I see. I can pick up what you're putting down. So it was a high. I picking up what you're putting down, Coach Cal. You're gonna make me do a little investigative research, man. I don't know. I had to look at that. Maybe we could collab on something. But in any case, like I said, at this point, I give the 60-40 split. 65-35 split at this point. Continue on. The Golden State Warriors travel to Houston to take on the Rockets. As we know, the Rockets have been a hot team lately, getting key wins over some top-tier talent in the West, or the teams battling in the West for an opportunity to go to the playoffs. The Lakers, the Pelicans, and the Mavericks, I believe. To where it just feels like a perfect storm because you had the Golden State Warriors who were on an 11-game losing streak when it came to away game this year. But this wasn't the night in which Golden State extended to 12, snapping their 11-game away game series, away game losses. Golden State gets the win 121-108, led by Steph Curry's 30.7 rebounds, 5 assists, as well as Klay Thompson's 29.7 rebound, 1 assist night. Kevin Looney contributed with a double-double, 11 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 7 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists from Draymond Green. Jonathan Kuminga, 17 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. 9 points from Anthony Lamb, 4 from JaMychal Green. Jordan Poole, 5 points, 8 rebounds, 2 rebounds, 8 assists, and the Devontae DiVincenzo, 5 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists on the night. The Rockets, 6 players in double digits, led by Terry Instance, 21 points, 12 rebounds, 1 assist, 20 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists from Jalen Green. Kevin Porter contributed with 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Josh Christopher, 10 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist on the night. 13 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist from Kenyon Martin Jr. and Jabari Smith, a double-double himself, 17 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, but it wasn't enough. 13-point dub by the Golden State Warriors. With that win, they increased to 37-36, currently sitting in the 6th seed ahead of the Mavericks. Houston Rockets, 18 losses on the year. As we heard earlier, talking about some of the lower tier teams, that puts them as, I think, the second or even the number 1 worst record in the league, I think. As I look at it, I had to take a look. I think Cal was talking about it earlier. So right now, Houston with the most balls in the when it comes down to the lottery. It continues to see. We'll see how that goes. But like I said, Golden State breaks their 11-game losing streak on the road, putting them back in position in the 6th seed as they tussle with the Mavericks for the 6th seed. But the Mavericks are half game behind with their loss last night as they played against the Memphis Grizzlies, getting a 112-108 over the visiting Dallas Mavericks in the game in which Kyrie Irving pulled up and played. Irving, 21 points, 4 rebounds, no assists last night. 20 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists for Jaden Hardy. I know, Cal, you was watching that game. I seen your comments last night. Josh Green, 12 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Christian Wood, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. 2 points from Hardaway. Beltrans with 3. Dwight Powell, 6 points, 1 rebound, 1 6. Damn it, Kleber, that damn 3-pointer. Maxi Kleber, 2 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists on the night. The Grizzlies led by Jared Jackson Jr. 28 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 22 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists for Santi Aldama, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist for Luke Kennard, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists from Dylan the Villain Brooks, as I get into a reference to him in a second. Xavier Tillman, 3 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. 3.3 rebounds, 2 assists on the night. Charles Jones, 16 points. Desmond Bain, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. As they continue to wait for Ja, but they continue to do business and get W's. Like I said, Memphis Grizzlies, 112-108, 44-27 on the year, still chasing their top Denver Nuggets squad. Mavericks dropped to 36-36 at 500, but in the 7th seed, just a game behind the Golden State Warriors. So, of course, Cal, the Mavericks needed that win last night for real. Coach Kidd is horrible, subbing, lacking of ability to draw up fourth quarter plays, killing y'all. I want the 6th seed, preferably to play the Kings, Grizzlies secondarily. I don't know if you want the Kings. Well, I mean, y'all playing without Luka, so I'm very sure that is an issue, a problem. But it seems like if y'all start to click, if Luka comes back, but I don't know. Luka was out the years prior in which he came back in the playoffs, and y'all was pretty dominant in the playoffs. So it remains to be seen. Now y'all have a running mate. He has a running mate in Kyrie. Uh, Additionally, Christian Wood and Jaden Hardy was playing pretty well last night. So it could be a reincarnation of what they had in Dinwiddie, Luka, and Brunson, or not even better. So maybe it might have a chance there. But Dylan Brooks, right? So last night, of course, Dylan Brooks earned his 18th technical foul, in which, of course, the NBA is going to go back and take a look and see how that if it should be withheld. Of course, if it's held up, Dylan Brooks would have to sit out tomorrow's night game versus the Dallas Mavericks yet again because of his, as you know, the NBA suspends a player that gets 16 technical fouls, and then they get suspension for every 2 technical fouls after that. Now Dylan Brooks currently at his 18th, which is going to make, if it holds up, he's going to be suspended 1 game. Of course, he got this technical foul due to taunting the bench of the Dallas Mavericks, mainly talking to Theo Pinson, in which he simulated pom-pom, saying that Theo Pinson is only a cheerleader from the bench, and he was assessed. Dylan Brooks basically concedes himself as a pest as a defender, and looks at dialing into that, and he says some of that is basically getting in the skin of the people in which he's defending, or just mind games. So that's how he continues to play. Although things get out of hand a little bit sometimes, as admitted, it could be a little bit different, especially when you have your top player, John Morant, that's out. You're supposed to be one of your team's better players, especially from a defensive standpoint, to be doing those type of things. Sometimes you got to quell that. Although John Morant is expected to potentially be back to play on Wednesday, he has served his 8-game suspension for what the league determined as actions detrimental to the league, for him being seen on social media while intoxicated in Denver for a traveling game, put him in that position. So he served 8 games. He's back. He couldn't do any workouts or anything while he was in his treatment facility. So now he's getting back, trying to get back into playing shape or back into form. So the expectation is that he will play Wednesday versus the Dallas Mavericks. So we have to see. Brooke, at that point, he's seen as like the newest and latest Pat Beverly, just an antagonizer to get under people's skin. As he said, he's a character. Cal, Alonzo said you in the pom pom guys. You got 2 in Pinson and the JaVale McGee. Last game last night, of course. Before I get into that, it was a point in which last night, I guess it was said that Dylan Brooks locked down Kyrie Irving later in the game because Kyrie was cooking, but Kyrie did have not a single assist last night. So something to be said for the game, whether it was Brooks matched up against Kyrie, or if he was matched up against the people Kyrie was dishing the ball to, Kyrie didn't have any assists. Last night after the game, there was a jersey swap. However, there was a one-way jersey swap as Dylan Brooks gave his jersey to Kyrie. Dylan Brooks received Kyrie Irving's jersey, but did not take Dylan Brooks' jersey, in which Dylan Brooks said he's a big Kyrie Irving fan. He's like, he loves everything in which he stands for. And so it was an honor to receive the jersey. He's like, Kyrie said maybe next time, not this time, he'll get the Brooks jersey. So it remains to be seen. This is a norming stage of us that we're witnessing him change up his attitude. I don't like it. Coach Cal, y'all good, man. You're good. Y'all should be in the play-in at minimum. So you what's your temperature right now, Coach Kidd, as the Dallas Mavericks coach, Coach Cal? Are you calling for his resignation? What's the temperature? One more game last night, the last of last night's games. Another game that, in this case, forced LA currently into the 11th seed. The Utah Jazz faced off against the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento, hot streaky team in NBA, in the top of the West, top 4 seed, but lost last night to the Utah Jazz. Kings, led by De'Aaron Fox, 37 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. Double-double from Domantas Sabonis, 11 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, 22.6 rebounds, 1 assist. From Keegan Murray, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. From Harrison Barnes, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. From Malik Monk. And then they ended there. The Jazz, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. Kelly Olynyk, 27 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists from Ochai Agbaji, their rookie from last year. Rudy Gay, 11 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Vet doing work, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist from Aduka Azubuike. Chris Dunn, 18 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists. Tyler Horton Tucker, 10.6 rebounds, 4 assists. Walker Kessler, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. And Somo Focchio, 12 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists. As the Jazz were able to get yet another W, as they continue their play to get into a position to play in the play-in, get the dub, 128, 120, 35-36 on the year, just one game below 500. Sacramento Kings, 43-28. Kelly only has a mad head coach in the season if we get to the the Western Conference Final. I think the Kings win overall. Continue your campaign for McGee to get more playing time, Cal. Maybe they're saving him so he can do work in the playoffs. Maybe that's when we see McGee again. Playoff. We see playoff McGee. Maybe that's what is going down. Currently, when we look at the standings, leading off with the Eastern Conference, we know the Bucks currently sit at the number 1 spot in the East. Just behind them, the Boston Celtics with 2.5 games behind. Both teams already have punched their ticket into the playoffs, so they're good. The 76ers at the 3rd seed, 4 games ahead of the 4th seed, the Cleveland Cavaliers. The New York Knicks sit at the 5th seed. The Brooklyn Nets quietly but surely in the 6th seed. Currently 1 game ahead of the Miami Heat, who are 7th. At 8, the Hawks. At 9, the Raptors. And 10, the Chicago Bulls, who are currently 2 games ahead of the Washington Wizards, who are chasing them to see if they can unseat them to get into the play-in. The Pacers sit 2.5 games behind the Bulls, and the Mavericks sit 5 games behind the Bulls, as they all are vying still to see if they can get in. Keys might sweep the Jazz in the series. I believe that. I agree with you, Coach Cal. In the West, the story is a whole lot different. Of course, the Nuggets have already clinched their division in the Northwest, sitting 3.5 games in front of the Grizzlies at the second seed. The Kings are just 1 game behind the Grizzlies for the second spot in the West. The Suns at the 4th seed, 5 games behind the Kings. The Clippers sit at the 5th seed, just 1.5 games ahead of the Warriors, as the Warriors sit in the 6th seed, which then comes the race. Mavericks currently at 500, sit just half a game behind the Warriors. The Timberwolves at the AC currently sit a game behind the Warriors for that sixth spot. The Oklahoma City Thunder sit a game behind the Warriors for that sixth spot. The Jazz at the 10th spot sit a game behind the Warriors for that sixth spot. The Lakers at the 11th spot sit a game and a half behind the Warriors for that sixth spot. The Pelicans at the 12th spot sit 2 games behind the Warriors for that sixth spot. And the Trailblazers, on the cusp of being dispatched, sit just 5 games behind the Warriors for that sixth spot. But when you look at it, they only sit 4 games behind the Jazz for that 10th spot. So at this point, it's anyone's game for the most part. But like I said, Trailblazers is very close to being ousted. So they got to be careful. Sitting back there, they would be the next team to go for the most part if it comes down to it. Of course, when we talk about who are the worst records in the NBA, the Rockets, I believe, do sit at the they're the second. We have the second worst record. The Pistons have the worst record. The Rockets have the second worst. The San Antonio Spurs with the third, and currently the Hornets with the fourth worst record, and which I think Coach Cal said earlier. Can the Lakers with LeBron beat the Nuggets in the first round series? So, Cal, my answer to that, Cal, is we don't even have to get into that conversation because the Lakers with LeBron won't even be in the play-in. If LeBron can hopefully come back this week, he should be able to help us get in position to play for to climb back up and get in that sixth spot. It's too much going on. Like we need to it's out there right for the picking. We need to mount up and get these W's to claim a spot. Pat Bear said he was going to knock them out of the playoffs when he got to Chicago. He did. That's his main focus is to take care of him and make sure LA doesn't get into the playoffs. In which I'm wondering, I'm side-eyeing like Pat. We're gonna start calling for shaving. If don't be no point shaving. Tonight's game, of course, the Wizards will take on the Mavericks, which has some implication. I think both teams are currently outside looking in. So it's an opportunity for one to best their resume now and kind of knock the other one into what could be a playoff oblivion. The Brooklyn Nets face off against the Cavaliers. This definitely has playoff implication in it. It's Jesselyn to move up in the rankings, but currently one over the other. I don't think it's really that big. The Hawks and Pistons have nothing to play for except to play spoiler. So they can put the Hawks in a precarious situation, making it harder for them to get out of that play-in and get into that 6 seeds. The Spurs and the Pelicans do battle tonight in New Orleans. The Spurs pull up. You know what? I think the Spurs get the dub there. I just foresee the Spurs getting the win. They're already out of contention, but they do look like they're going to be a team to play that's going to play spoiler at this point. And I think the first person on the docket is the Pelicans, making it a little harder for them to even get back into the play-in. The Sacramento Kings host the Boston Celtics tonight in a cross-conference shootout. Number 3 versus number 2. Celtics are already secure, so it'd be interesting to see how they go about their business and taking care. And last, of course, the 5th seeded, as stated before, Los Angeles Clippers will host the 8th seeded Oklahoma City Thunder, in which definitely some implications there. A night in which it looks like the Lakers might be able to get back or get a little bit closer, or some a little distance, a little cushion as they take on without playing. So last time this happened, the Lakers you blinked and they were back into the 10th spot, but didn't take care of business, losing to the Houston Rockets in the next game. So We'll see how that ends up going. Um, let me see if I missed anything. Oh, other things, of course, in the NBA, we see we know Ball brothers, LaMelo Ball, Lonzo Ball. Obviously, it seems like LaMelo might be a better player than Lonzo. Um, Opportunity Lonzo currently uh, having or had another surgery on his knee. This time a cartilage transplant. This is potentially the best way to possibly get him back to be able to resume a career, not just to resume with Chicago, but to resume a career overall. He has basically has to replace the cartilage. So we'll see how that goes. Additionally, LaMelo out the rest of the season. We know he broke his ankle. He did have 3 ankle injuries previous to the left ankle. Breaks the right ankle. I think this is reminiscent of Steph Curry. We know when Steph Curry first got into the league, he had a lot of ankle problems. Uh, Will LaMelo wears low low top shoes when playing, and without ankle braces, kind of putting himself at a detriment. He said he will, after his ankles heal, he'll take a look at seeing, try to make that transition or see what he can do to make himself better or a betterment to help his situation. Uh, so we'll see if he does, if that helps him. He said Leandro is the healthiest. Unfortunately, he can't get a deal to get into the league, but he is pretty healthy. That you are right, Coach Cal. He is pretty healthy. Um, um, where was I at? 1 second. I'll make sure I covered everything I need to cover in NBA. I'm sorry. Where else? Where else? Where else? Where else? Where else? What else? Um, yes, that is it. So now you're saying so we'll see. Ball brothers. Maybe Leandro can. He can't even steal the spot on the roster. He can't, bro. That's just I ain't gonna say that's a shame. I mean, he just everyone. I think maybe he benefited of playing next to his brothers. That's what the insight was. He benefited from playing next to his brothers. Then they went their separate ways, and maybe a little exposure came in, and that's what put him in the position they're in. So will we see? Maybe he does finally get in. Maybe he's a career G League player to finally at some points get to a late 1 year, gets an opportunity, and then he can make some headway. Maybe we see him in the big three. I don't know. We'll see. Um, is yet to be remain. So, what's one of the hottest topics in talking about transitioning a little to NFL before you get ready to get off here? Um, is I guess somewhat could even be seen in reference to um, NBA action as uh, Magic Johnson, owner of the Los Angeles Sparks, the Los Angeles Football Club, the Los Angeles Dodgers, is a part of the group looking to purchase the Washington Commanders, in which Magic Johnson tried his hand before, as he was part of the group that was looking to purchase the Denver Broncos. Now throws his hat in the bucket potentially to looking to seek ownership uh, or the sales of the Washington Commanders. Of course, there expected to be a couple of other people who have been bargaining, trying to put themselves in position to be in place. What is expected is that the Commanders are likely to sell for $5.6 billion. Interesting enough, as I look at it, we all know, if you haven't been paying attention, Roger Goodell, commissioner of the NFL, is currently up for extension, in which the owners are due to have a meeting in Arizona next month, in which one of the discussions is going to be the extension of Roger Goodell. Of course, things in which Roger Goodell has done is he's kind of like better than NFL in a sense. He's been commissioner since 2009, I think, or 2006 or something like that, in which he's been extended 3 times. Which the last time it was the expectancy that he wasn't going to get too far extended. We was going to basically going to leave. Currently 64 years old. All the other commissioners that have served just under the age in which he is currently, in which he's seeking another deal currently extension. He said Roger is there for life. He has the documents on these cats. So, but the expectancy, Coach Cal was interested enough is the idea was that Roger Goodell was going to hang him up after this last one, but they're currently looking at extending him, in which he may go, but this may be his last one. Of course, ascension, depending on how long they extend, 3 to 5 years, which in any case will put him at 67 to 69 years old as a commissioner. Other commissioners have served 63, 65, 62. So it's interesting. So he's done plenty for the NFL, but of course we have had the situations to where you have the CTE situation that's rampant in the NFL. The disciplinary action when it comes to NFL players that seems to be a little thwarted in a sense. A couple other things have happened during his reign. I know some people, which is conversations have been having, is who would be replacing Roger Goodell if he was to go or leave. Of course, you know the NFL owners have a more so say that. So within the NFL currently, some names that have been tossed around have been Brian Rolap, who is the executive vice president of football, who is a business officer for the NFL, chief media business officer for the NFL. Of course, you have Troy Vincent, the president of football operations for the NFL, chief administrator for football operations, which is Don Aponte. Interesting enough, a female at the commissioner's position for a male dominant league. Executive Vice President, Club Business and League Events, Peter O'Reilly, and lastly, Chief Revenue Officer, Rennie Anderson. Some candidates that they have tossed around as well that's outside the NFL organization has been Chicago Bears President Kevin Warren, and lastly, the Los Angeles Rams Chief Operation Officer Kevin Dimhoff. So that alone, 7 potential candidates, maybe for to pick up the helm of commissioner. I know with the conversation in which Troy Vincent has had when he has been clear and adamant about he doesn't agree with the combine. I would doubt that the owners would bring him in as a commissioner. But I mean, stranger things that happen. So we know he have his extension potentially. One of the things that with correlation to the Magic Johnson thing is before Roger Goodell took over as the commissioner, the Minnesota Vikings sold for $600 million. That was just the last team to be sold before he became the commissioner. Currently, with Roger Goodell as the commissioner, the last team sold was the was it the Broncos? Yes, the Broncos at over $5 billion. So of course, the ideal is through all the things that Roger Goodell has done, he has made the league a valuable system. We're talking about $100 million rights deals, all kinds of stuff, which they're different things. He's brought in rights with CBS, NBC, ABC, ESPN, Prime, and now YouTube that basically has the right for the NFL Sunday Ticket. He's been doing his thing, bringing revenue to the NFL, in which is being sought and seen. So definitely, I guess some things that are worthy of getting an extended deal. So we'll see how that goes if he continues on. Like Coach Cal was just saying, he it's almost like he's a made man that he has the opportunity, the ability to make everything work. So does he continue on? It will be seen. I'm very sure he's going to continue on. How long is just the question for the most part. Other things in the NFL, of course, Cam Newton, interesting enough, will be throwing at the Auburn Pro Day. Cam Newton thinks that it's a bunch of randoms that have been getting jobs. So his thing is let him show them how it can be done. For him try to get an effort to maybe secure another shot in the NFL, maybe as a backup with the opportunity to maybe take on a starting role. I don't know. Do y'all think, those still out there listening, does Cam Newton have what it takes to even get on a roster? I'm not going to say a starting role. Let's take little steps. Let's see. Let's put this, as levels to this. Can Cam Newton get back to where he can just at least be a backup, if that, at minimum? We know his last one was in Carolina, in which evidently it didn't work out because he didn't get another deal, and he hasn't been mentioned. So of course, but he does get an opportunity to be at the pro day, toss some balls to those seeking to get into the NFL. He's trying to make his way to getting back in as well. The Buffalo Bills opened up their room a little more, agreeing to a deal with ex-Patriots running back Damien Harris, a 1-year deal. Damien Harris enters into a room with James Cook, Zachary Moss, as well as Duke Johnson, for opportunity to be the top running back in Buffalo. Singletary had left and took a deal in, where's Singletary going? Texans. So Singletary goes and teams up with the Houston Texans, as well as interesting enough Schultz as well. So they both signed with the Texans, as the Texans look to be bringing in some players that's going to be conducive to their organization. We still haven't seen them take on another one quarterback. What we know is they brought back a former quarterback. They have Davis Mills that's still currently under contract. So we'll see how it goes. Cap and Cam can't seem to get back on the field, and there are some trash QBs holding clipboards right now. I completely agree with you, Coach. Well, no, I won't say I completely agree with you. You may have a conversation that has legs. However, if I remember correctly, it was stated that Cap wasn't too eyebrow raising when it came to his performance of what would be seen. I think the main thing for Kaepernick was that he might have been good enough to be a backup, but not at the price in which he probably would have been seeking. Cam, I think it's the same thing. We may or may not see a situation where Cam gets on the back on the field. Different for Colin Kaepernick. Cam had an opportunity, and he didn't pan out. So I think the situation is what these players are asking at that point. Like, maybe I don't think either one wants to be that quarterback that's holding the clipboard, as you stated. I think that's some of the issue. They want to be in the mix. They don't want to come in to be a practice squad quarterback. They want to be in the mix. They want to be a player that's holding a spot, and maybe it'll be a roster spot in which they don't never get to see the field. And I think for whatever it is they're asking, the value isn't there. I think that's just what it comes out to be, and it becomes that type of situation in state. 1 second, hold on, please. And so I think that's where it comes out to be. Honestly, I think it's past the point of all the other stuff with the being putting someone locking them down and not showing. I think that's it's past that point. Correct. It's not. But I think because you have so many players that tend to go down. But I think even the end state is that them as a backup. I think it's a price thing. Like I don't see Colin Kaepernick or Cam Newton being the third or even playing their way in or being on a practice squad. I think they feel like they're past that. We're better than that, and I think that's some of the issue or problems. Because if that was the case, you would see they would be those names or maybe people that's out there, in which we don't know because it hasn't been, that's playing in the XFL or the USFL, getting the opportunity to get some reps in, to where it shows like, okay, maybe they are good to go. Maybe they do need to be taking a look at from a different standpoint in the league and being called up or asking him on a practice squad to continue from there. And neither one of those players are going to do that because I think because they were a bigger name. You have DiNucci that's in the XFL playing. I seen the other night he playing for Seattle. He took care of business against Houston, knocking them off from the ranks of the undefeated. A lot with his legs. It wasn't the greatest of showing, but he showed, okay, maybe I can still play a little bit. So you have those type of players. PJ Walker, one of those quarterbacks in which you talk about, I believe, he showed that he can compete. Huntley, we have players that are backups that when they get in the game, they show a little something. And I think that's not what Colin Kaepernick or Cam Newton continue to show. Or it's other quarterbacks out there that names that we're not talking about. Matt Ryan, Josh Rosen, like those quarterbacks that had names, big name players that just ain't it. And you got more, in my opinion, more that probably are currently those players is going to be in the same predicament as them at some point. So I think that's just basically what it comes out to be. I get you, Coach. It's bigger, like you said, it's bigger than the sport. Well, honestly, it can be. It definitely can be bigger than the sport. And that's the sentiment. Like it's now there's other opportunities to make your way back into the NFL if you're not there. And I think that's the difference. That's a huge difference is some players don't want to do that. But of course, other things are stacked against them, as Coach Kyle was saying. There's other interests, other situations that are stacked against some of these players, stigmas and things of that nature, past transgressions and stuff like that, that continues to stay stacked against them. So they don't get an opportunity. But a lot of organizations don't want spectacles as well that come with that. So I think that's a portion of it as well. You have teams that aren't willing to step to take certain chances on players due to the fact of if they do, there's going to be a whole show that comes with that, in which they don't want to do. Of course, breaking news this morning: linebacker Dont'a Hightower retires from the New England Patriots. We already know Dont'a Hightower has won 3 titles with the Patriots in their vaulted defense at that time. So I wouldn't say he's going out on top because it's a couple of years removed from since they won their last championship. They've only been to the playoffs, I think, once or twice since then. But I mean, he was a problem when he played. I'm not going to say Hall of Fame first ballot, but enough of an opportunity to get in at some point. So I'm gonna say shout out to Dont'a Hightower and his accolades and contributions to the game. He decided to retire and kick his feet up and watch these other cats do it. So shout out to that. What else we have before we get up out of here? Baker Mayfield. So Baker Mayfield, of course, we know signed on to be to pull up in Tampa. Baker just see it that he's not Tom Brady and never will be. So let's get that out the way. Quell that conversation right there. But he's brung in. He will compete against Kyle Trask for the starting position in Tampa Bay. I'm very sure he was shaking a little bit. He went from being a number 1 overall drafted quarterback in the NFL to playing 4 years for that team that drafted you, to being traded to another team that only played you for 5 games, in which you won 1 game in that case, to being released, and then after being released, picked up by another team, the Los Angeles Rams, to finish off the year in which you were not picked back up by that team that picked you up, wasn't re-signed by them, only to go and re-sign with the aforementioned Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are currently without a starting quarterback, but have Kyle Trask in camp as well as now himself. So he basically said that he's not Baker Mayfield, like, he recognized it. He's like, that did shake him a little bit, so he has to take in consideration what it is and how it's going right now. So with that being said, he's going to have to compete. Does Baker Mayfield, is he able to unseat Kyle Trask, or do we have a situation where Kyle Trask becomes the starter? In that case, if Kyle Trask becomes a starter, what does that do to Baker Mayfield's psyche at that time? Like, you've been bouncing, you went from a number 1 overall draft pick, just 5 years removed from being that person, to now being a backup to a third year player. That has to be a huge fall from grace. The Bills will be on top. Miami looking solid. Bills. NFL is definitely different this year. A lot going on, like you say, Kyle. Hightower said he wasn't worth it, and probably that's what it was. It's like, especially playing there with the frigid cold. I wouldn't doubt that either. I would feel the same way. Additionally, staying in the conversation when we talk about quarterbacks, Joshua Dobbs returns to the Browns as their backup quarterback. So now Dobbs is backup. Deshaun Watson, as we know, Dobbs initially was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, in which he left Pittsburgh to become the backup to Baker Mayfield. Because Jacoby Brissett he was backup to Baker Mayfield, in which then he was brought in as a backup to backup Jacoby Brissett while Deshaun Watson was out. Once Deshaun Watson came back into the fray, Dobbs was released, in which he tried out and then ended up getting an opportunity to back up for the Tennessee Titans, and when they their starting quarterback went down and they weren't too sure on Malik Willis. Dobbs was in Detroit playing as a backup. What was the practice team quarterback? Got a call. He went to Tennessee, got a couple starts in Tennessee, opportunity to get them into the playoffs. Didn't pan out, but he did. So now he gets the call. He is now going to be the backup quarterback for Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. Might get some burn if Deshaun keeps his last podcast. I think for Deshaun Watson, I think he gets opportunity to get back into playing. So I think he's gonna put himself in position to we can see somewhat of what he used to be. As far as Baker, I don't know if Baker's starting. Kyle Trask has been there. Maybe Kyle Trask shows up. Kyle Trask, I think of course they're going to be learning different systems now because Byron Leftwich is gone. And Scott Bowles is going to institute a new system based on that of what his offensive coordinator now. So we don't know what we're going to see. Trask may or may not be able to unseat Baker. Baker may or may not be able to take out Trask. At this point, I won't say. I think it's clear and good for a competition. So I wouldn't say you would think that Baker probably will be, but Trask has been there a couple of years, so definitely might not. I'm very sure there's some parameters for Mr. Watson. So around Cleveland, masseuses and things of that nature. Cleveland should have their own, so it shouldn't be a reason for him to reach out to anyone else and bring in anyone. So that of course we have it. Additionally, we seen CJ Gardner, safety from the Philadelphia Eagles, NFC conference champion NFC Eagles. He's now a Detroit Lion. A couple of other moves, like you said, Schultz. We see he leaves the Cowboys. He's currently going to be a Texan, as well as Devin Singletary. Adam Thielen signs on in Philadelphia. I mean, in Carolina to be the wide receiver for the Panthers. Although we know Miles Sanders. He's a Panther. Hayden Hurst is a Panther. We just currently don't know who's going to be throwing to any of them for the most part. The ideal is that we know Carolina moved up to get that number one spot, but who are they taking? I know a conversation has been centered around Bryce Young, but saying that Bryce Young is too small at 5'11", although his GM was a part of the group that looked and drafted Russell Wilson, another 5'11" quarterback who played at Wisconsin during his college days in Louisville, in which they talked about how, of course, there were big linemen in Wisconsin and how they made it work there. Say similar, all we could do is the similar things for him. So we have that conversation that's going forth, in which is Bryce Young. The data in Indianapolis stated that Frank Reich, the head coach for the Carolina Panthers, has been saying, or has said before, that he only drafts tall quarterbacks, in which he has had 6 foot to 6'4" quarterbacks during his tenure in the Colts with the Colts. That's over 14 seasons, and he has always had a tall quarterback, ranging from Luck, Brissett, Ryan, Ellinger, and other quarterbacks. So the expectation is that he's not going to take a quarterback that's under 6 foot. But again, like I said, it's not his choice. I'm very sure his input is considered. But the GM, who was a part of the Seattle Seahawks when they drafted Russell Wilson, may think differently. GM's job. So of course he will pick who he think is best for that position. As a Coy fan, I'm ecstatic about Philly exodus going on. But what about your own, Cal? Like who's going to didn't y'all did just sign a tight end, didn't y'all lose Schultz, but y'all did bring in someone else. I can't remember who it is exactly. As a Washington fan, I can second what Cal just said. They haven't lost much. I mean, they still kept their defensive line. I mean, they lost Hargrave, but they kept Cox. I don't think they re-signed Sue or offered Sue anything. They did lose their linebacker, but it's plenty of linebackers out there. So it remains to be seen, as well as they got a top draft or top 10 pick, I think, in the draft right now. So we'll see. I mean, it is an exodus. There is a huge Philly exodus going on with the players. They lost all of their starting centers. I mean, all of their starting safeties. And then, but Slay and Bradbury stayed on. They're both there. 2 weeks that showed out. Okay, I'll get what you're saying, Coach Cal. I won't argue there. So, yeah, so there's a lot going on potentially. I think want to double back, of course, before I get up off here. I have to go back and pull it up because we know it's getting closer and closer to that day. If you've been paying attention or if you tap in with us when we talk about and discuss I'm sorry. When we talk about and discuss Calvin. Now maybe added some more pieces, huh, Coach Cal? Maybe having some more pieces potentially. But I mean, y'all got Gilmore, so I mean, y'all it's not too bad. I mean, I think the East is putting itself in position again. think they're definitely putting themselves in position to be able to make some things work. But I'm sorry, it's off track a little bit. Attention, but real quick before we get up out of here, of course, if you've been paying attention, watching, tapping in, as we've been talking about the military basketball, of course, it's getting closer and closer to conversation being had and information being released in reference to who will get the invites to this year's National Military Basketball Tournament. But I just wanted to tap in and talk about what their current standings are in their rankings. Uh, he said Jerry got it under control. Real quick, before, like I said, we go. So, top 25 National Military Basketball Tournament standings for this year. At number 25, the West Texas Military Basketball Team. At 24, Mayport Hurricanes. At 23, the Scott Phantoms. At number 22, Tinker Hawks. At 21, Nellis Air Force Base Lightning. At the 20 spot, the Fort Worth JRB Aviators. At number 19, the Fort Campbell Eagles. At the 18 spot, the Naval Base San Diego Tritons. At 17, Camp Pendleton. Again, shout out to Coach Anderson and Camp Pendleton as they went into Hawaii with 6 players and 1 coach who was substituted as a player to win the Armed Forces basketball tournament put on by Coach RJ in Hawaii, taking care of business. Shout out to Camp Pendleton at the 17. At 16, Fort Gordon Eagles. At 15, Cannon Air Force Base Commandos. At 14, JB Meyer Generals. ENCMB Marines come in out of Camp Lejeune, come in at number 13. At number 12, the Elgin Air Force Base Eagles. At 11, Colorado Military Basketball. At number 10, the Hawaii Elite Squad. At number 9, the Fort Benning Yellow Jackets. At 8, the Lackland Air Force Base Air Warhawks. At number 7, Herbert Commandos. At number 6, the Fort Carson Mountaineers. At number 5, the AFA Air Force Club Team Falcons. At number 4, Luke Air Force Base moves up as they was a 6 seed for the last couple of weeks. They put in the work and move up to the 4th seed. 4th place ranking in the rankings. At number 3, holding on, the top 3 teams holding on. Fort Bragg was jumped, but Langley useless this weekend. The Raptors come in at 2, and Fort Hood Phantom Warriors continue to hold their stranglehold, keep their stranglehold on the number 1 seed over the course of the whole year. They've been holding on. Of course, honorable mentions are people getting looked at, seeing Moody Air Force Base, the MCAS Myanmar, Davis-Monthan, Shepherd Air Force Base, and Barkdale Air Force Base all getting honorable votes in the ranking. So we're coming down to, I believe, the last week, is it? Or so? Is it the last week? I think it's this week. I believe it's this week. To where before we get to talking about who is going, I'm not sure. Maybe we get Mike on to see if the reflection of the rankings is a reflection of who potentially could possibly be getting offered invites, because they are those type 16 teams, give or take, when you look down to the breakdown, because some teams may be able to go or some teams may not be able to go depending upon certain aspects. And so continue also as you know it, you got it going down in July, the AAU men's and women's men's and women's Battle of the Crest tournament going down in July. Of course, that's going to be a huge thing. Open. It doesn't matter, as long as you are a CAT card holder, you can get a squad up and get in there. to play. I don't know, Coach Cal. Do you pulling up? You got a squad, Coach Cal? What's good? You popping in on AAU men's tournament? Last weekend's was the cutoff. Not sure. There's a tournament going on. Okay, I think you're correct because I spoke with Mr. Richardson, Coach Richardson, the other day, and I think this week is when the invites go out. So I think you were exactly correct, Coach Cal. Which I got to tap back into. I asked him about something too, so I got to find out what is good or what it is or what is going to be announced or when would he like to announce their webcase like this if we can do a hand. But I think you're exactly right. I actually think yes, that the notifications go out this week. And the tournament play that happened over the course of the week is when it's finalized. So we should be hearing very soon, within the next couple of days or a week or so, when or who is getting the invites. NBA tournaments are not online with the MBT or Turkey, so their postseason tournaments are all after the fact. Understandable. Maybe they might do something to put that in line to give it more of a thought to see or so forth. But definitely is going down. We should be hearing very soon about the in reference to who is invited selection on that selection day. So be sure to tap in for that. So outside of that, that's the show for today. Gladly appreciate y'all tapping in today. Sorry you missed us yesterday. As I had, like I said, had a couple of appointments yesterday. We'll be out again on Thursday. More appointments, just getting everything taken care of. Being a vet, how it goes for us. But we will be tapped in tomorrow. Same time, same channel as always, as well as Friday, most likely. So you do get us at least 2 more days out this week. Bringing you anything in sports action. See if we can get a couple more people on, because there's plenty out there to have a conversation with. I'm going to discuss it with them as well. We still owe an opportunity to talk to Kimberly Green, Jasmine as well, and a couple more. So I'm going to have to get with them and see when they up, when we can get them to talk to them as well. But I greatly appreciate y'all tapping in and rap with me a little bit today. For those that was able to tap in, be sure if you get a chance, shout out Bishop on his birthday, and enjoy y'all's weekend, y'all day. Make something happen out there. I appreciate you showing up today. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Be sure, if you haven't done so already, show us some love. Go to our social media platforms, YouTube, even Twitter. We have one, but definitely on YouTube and in our Facebook formation, Facebook First Formation page. Like, subscribe, so we can continue to, as we continue to bring content, grow that content, and make this bigger and better than what it is already. Appreciate y'all. Without y'all, there's no us. I hope y'all enjoy y'all week, y'all day. See you tomorrow, same time, 09 Formation, a Fallout.